So the first topic today is Unix shell and shell script. And the subtitle of this talk is Why You Should Know About the Command Line Interface. So a lot of the presentation draws from previous references from previous year mentors, Shitan and Joey, as well as the publicly available uh, courses on Unix, such as Unix Workbench and the software carpentry. Okay, let me admit more people before I start. Okay, so for most of us, we usually interact with our computers using the so-called graphic user interface, or GUI, which is simply when you're clicking with your mouse or typing on your keyboard, or for the touch screen, it's usually tapping on the screen. But most scientific computing are done with so-called command line interface, or CLI. This is basically typing commands in a terminal, very similar to what you see. Uh, uh, sorry, please mute yourself as you're joining. So this is very similar to what you see in the movie Matrix. A basic type commands in a small terminal, and the computer give you returns. So CLI is very crucial for automating, standardizing, and repeating large-scale computing tasks in a reliable way. CLI also make it easier for a whole team of scientists to work on the same project. This way you can perform so-called version control using something like GitHub or Git. With CLI, one can also easily control another computer remotely using only limited internet bandwidth. So Unix is actually the first portable operating system, or so-called OS. Uh, And an OS is simply something that facilitates the interface between the hardware and the software on your computer and let the user interact with the machine. So Unix was written back in 1971 and was entirely written in the C programming language. Unix is extremely fast for repetitive tasks and is now widely used. For example, your Mac OS on your Apple computer use Unix, and Linux is also Unix-like system. Okay, so what is then a Unix shell? Uh, as Unix is an operating system, the Unix shell is the corresponding so-called command line interface with which the user can interact. And the diagram on the right illustrates uh, the loop. We're using a shell. Basically, the user putting comments and the shell reading the comment, interpret it, and execute it before displaying the output to the user. And you do so in a loop. The so-called bash or born again shell is perhaps the most popular implementation of a Unix shell. And as I mentioned earlier, both Mac OS or Apple computer or your Linux system have built-in terminal system that they can use to interact with the shell. For Windows users, you should have installed the Windows subsystem for Linux. Uh, Hope you have done it. If not, please do so after the session. Uh, yes, you can also interact with the shell within a Python notebook with the comment uh, percentage sign, then bash. Okay, so when the shell is first opened, you're presented with a prompt. Sometimes this prompt is a dollar sign, as shown here, which indicate the terminal is ready to taking your comments. And we then writing a comment by typing in the terminal. Let me show you here. I already have a terminal opened up. So let me first clear it. So we can type in comments here and just use enter to execute it. For the first comment, let's use the command pwd. Uh, at the moment, if you have a terminal installed on your machine, feel free to open it up, and we can do it together. I'll give you a couple of seconds to bring up your own terminal. Okay, so I hope you're ready. So the first command we'll do is so-called pwd, or print the current working directory. And you can see after I press enter, the terminal execute the commands and print out the output. And the output in this case is the folder we are working with here on my own computer. You'll see something different on your machine, but the idea is the same. Okay, so how do we navigate the Unix file system? The Unix file system is really a tree-like file system in which the slash directory represent the root of the file system, the very bottom of the file system, and it treats files and directory in the same way, and they are both encoded in strings like this. For example, in the root, you have these few directories named bin, data, users, and tmp, which stand for temporary. And you can see in the user file, you can further have subfolders or directories. Here, for example, Larry and Nell are two different users. So you can access different levels of directory of files using commands like this, slash a folder name or directory name, followed by slash, followed by a subdirectory name. And if you want to access a file, you follow the slash with the file name and its appendix. For example, in this case, the subscript or the appendix for the file name is .txt, which stands for a text file. So the tilde also plays an important role in the Unix file system as it represents the user's home directory. For example, let's see here, we can go to my home directory using another command called cd, which stands for change directory. And we use tilde here to represent my home directory. And we can pwd or print the working directory again and see that we have changed. All right. So we already covered this. In order to navigate Unix file system, we use the command cd, which stands for change directory. And just now what we have done is cd tilde, which brings us to the home directory. Okay, another useful command is called ls, which stands for list, and it allows the user to see the current content of the working directory. For example, let's go back to the terminal. If I type ls, it shows basically all the directories, all files in my home folder.
Hey Faye, are you showing your terminal as well?
Oh yeah, I should, sorry about that.
So
Let me
just
share
change.
again. Let me share in my entire desktop. Now everyone should be able to see my terminal. Let me do it again. So pwd give you the current working directory, and cd allows you to change your directory, and ls actually shows the current content of the directory. Okay, so let's go back to the presentation. So with cd, there are a few shortcuts you can use. For example, cd followed by two dot brings you back to one directory up in your current file system. For example, cd double dot brings me to the directory users. And just now we were um, in my home directory user followed by my name. So cd single dot brings you to the current directory, which does nothing. And cd slash brings you to the root directory. For example, the root here on my machine is again the slash. So cd tilde brings us back to the home directory. We have done that. And cd followed by a hyphen brings you back to the last directory you were working with. And you can also move around using the exact name or absolute path to a given directory. For example, I can simply do this, which, uh, sorry, should be users. Yes. So that brings me to the home directory again. Okay, so when you're typing comment in a terminal, you can also follow that comment with an option, and the option is usually indicated by a hyphen after the comment. For a single letter comment option, it is a single hyphen. For multi-letter flag, it's usually passed with a double hyphen. And in case you don't know what are some of the options for a comment, a useful uh, trick to know is that you can type MAN, which stands for manual, followed by that comment, and you can see all the manual or the help text for that comment. For example, if I do MANLS, it gives me the various options that I can use for that comment. You can see these are all followed by a hyphen. And in order to quit uh, this menu, you type Q. Okay, so let's try out a few different comments within ls. For example, if I do ls followed by L, it actually gives me the current directory in a list format. So these are all the uh, current directories in my home folder. For example, it has desktop, documents, downloads, things like that. And they are also individual files. And you can see here's a list that shows who created the file and on what date the file was created. Another option in ls is ls-t, which gives you the current directory uh, uh, in the order they were created. So, for example, the download file was probably created first. And you can also combine different flags together. For example, if you type ls hyphen ltrh, so the L stands for list, as we have seen. T stands for time, which sort the files by the time in which they are created. And H stands for human readable format. So if we do this, you can see the files are again um, the different directory are again shown, and they're listed by the order in which they are created. Okay, so a few other different comments you should be familiar with. One thing is called touch, which is usually followed by a file name. This creates a new file using the name that I have just typed in. mkdir stands for make new directory, and you can actually create a new folder. The rn command actually remove a file or a directory. And you should be careful with this comment as it is actually different from when you do delete on on a Windows machine, because you can always find the file in your recycle or your dustbin. But if you're doing RN, you remove the file permanently from your computer. So to remove a whole directory, what you do is rn followed by -r, which stands for recursive, and it deletes all the subsidiary directory or files uh, i- in the directory that I have just typed. All right. So how do you move around files? This is using command called cp or copy. And you start with the source file followed by the target file location. Move, usually you can consider that as cut and paste. So MV stands for move. So the original file is no longer retained if you use this command. And again, if you do copy or move followed by -r, you do so in a recursive way, which brings the entire content of that directory, including sub directory and files. Okay, so you can also directly work with files in a terminal. This is using a command called cat or cat. It brings out print the content of file on the terminal. A related comment is head or tail. It shows the first X number or Y number of lines within a file. And you can also write uh, to a file directly using the cat command. And this is using the greater sign. Uh, Maybe let's do something like this here. So let me uh, create a new folder, make dir. Let's call it temporary. And we can change to that file, that directory. And if we do list, we can see there's nothing here, but using the touch command, which you can try on your own, we can create a new file, for example, s, and let's call it a sh file, which stands for shell file. So if we look at this test file, it's empty, but we can write something to it. Let's do echo hello world. Sorry, should be cat file test sh cool. Yes. Yeah. So now we have entered this line um, to the test file. See, as you can see, it has that new line that we put in. Okay. So there are a few other things we should note in terminals. The first one is called grep, or is simply search for a particular string or list of characters in a file. And this is using the grep command. And ls followed by grep actually allows you to search for all the files as subdirectories in the working directory that contains whatever input you have there. For example, foo is something people often use in terminals, which is a placeholder. So you can also do find. This allows you to find a certain string within a file name. And you can see here, uh, there's one particular useful string called the asterisk, and this is actually a wildcard. You can use the asterisk to represent unknown set of characters, and you can also use the question mark to represent one single unknown characters. For example, if you remember your file names contains a, but you don't remember what other characters are in that file name, you can use this wildcard asterisk to represent whatever name that you forgot that is in the file name. Similarly, you can combine asterisk with other strings to represent the file name, and you can do so in a different combination. Again, question mark uh, stands for one single unknown character. Okay, so that's a lot of comments that we have covered. You don't have to memorize all of them. You can also usually Google them, or you can, find yourself a cheat sheet on Unix comment. But what you should remember in general is that Unix comment looks something like this. Again, the dollar sign stands for the prompt, meaning that your terminal is ready to take in input. And the first thing you should type usually is a comment itself, followed by options of that comment. And the option, again, is put in with a hyphen sign. And the last input you should have should be argument of this comment. Sometimes it's the directory name or a file name. For example, some examples are shown on the right. For example, some commands do not require any argument. For example, pwd, print the current directory. You don't need to follow it with any argument. Similarly, for list, but if you're changing directory, it usually does require argument. For example, we're changing directory to folder here, or make a new directory, and you should give it a name. Again, CP stands for copying, MV stands for moving, and RM stands for remove. So we have covered quite a number of comments, but another thing you could do is so-called shell script. This is basically a file that contains a whole sequence of comment, and you can essentially consider this a small program. And the script allows you to automate repetitive tasks, which can make your work faster and less prone to error. Uh, Using script, you can also improve the accuracy. Usually, if a script works, it works and you can repeat it. So there's fewer typo. And you can save the script, and in the future, you can bring it out and run it again. So this increases the reproducibility of your work. And using scripts, you can run entire workflow using just a single command line. So why do we want to use it? So for example, in astronomy, imagine you're observing on a telescope and you may have taken hundreds of observations in a single night. For example, this using something we call FITS file, which stands for which is a typical standardized binary file in astronomy. So within a single night, you may have many of such files, and you don't want to copy or work on them individually. Instead, you can write a shell script to apply a similar set of operation on each file. For example, here our operation are all contained in this Python file called process image.py. We will learn about Python in the next live session next week. But for now, this shell script is actually a loop. For stands for when you see the FOR or the for command, it usually stands for whole loop. So for file in the asterisk, hope you remember, is stands for any name that have the appendix dot fits. It will bring out each of this file and perform the following action on those file. First, the echo command stands for output a certain string in a terminal. So the echo followed by the string actually allows the terminal to print out the message. It is working on this particular file. And then the terminal use a Python script process image.py to operate on that file. And uh, the down comment indicate that the loop has finished. So if you write this just 4 lines in your shell script, it actually performs a whole loop on all the hundreds of files that you have collected in a single night. So you don't have to do this manually, which will be a very tedious task. So this is the whole point of writing shell script. You automate your workflow. Okay, so how do we execute a shell file? So you first need to grant the shell file permission using something called chmod plus X, which stands for executable, and you follow by the shell file itself. Let's see. So
Sorry to stop in between. So two things. One, can you go full screen? People are having trouble reading through.
oh, so I have to
To the
switch back and forth between
presentation.
the presentation and
Oh,
the
yeah,
terminal. I
makes
was
sense.
just about to do that. So,
Okay. The other thing, Faye, can you make me the co-host? I think a few people are waiting to join the call.
okay, let me make you the co-host. Yeah, I should have done that earlier. Okay, you're now the co-host. Thanks a lot for doing that.
Thank you.
Okay, so earlier we have already written this uh, shell file called test, and we can modify it further. So one way to modify it is using the vim command, which brings out a text editor in your terminal. For example, we have already put in the command uh, echo hello world. For example, we can echo something else, uh, you know, welcome to intro to Astro. This is another comment, and we can echo. Yeah. So this is a very simple file that has three different comments. And as we have seen, these are all here, these three comments. And we can execute this shell file first, chmod, which enable it to be an executable. And we should follow by the file name. And the way we run this file is dot slash followed by the file name. And you can see it executes the three comments. Remember, echo stands for output in a terminal. And as we have seen, the file put out these three lines and finish its job. Okay, so that's a simple example of a shell file. Let's go back to the presentation. So using something like shell script, you can work out a whole pipeline or a series of operation for a complicated task. And for example, what's shown on the right is the JWST or James Webb Space Telescope pipeline that brings the uncalibrated exposure all the way to calibrated files that can be uploaded to website and for scientists to use. So in short, a pipeline is a whole series of operation. It could be, individual command line comments, or it can be an individual shell file. And it actually encapsulates individual modules of your pipeline. So using something like this, you can almost fully automate your work process. Okay, so to summarize, we should talk about the relationship between Unix shell and shell script. Uh, and the good analogy is to see the Unix, which is operating system, um, uh, as some sort of lab bench if your computer is a laboratory. And the shell script, you should view it as a set of lab protocols that it can rerun experiments using exactly the same protocol or the shell script. And again, you don't have to memorize all the comments we have covered so far. You can usually learn them by doing, by, playing around in the terminal, or you can simply look them up. So we covered Unix shell and shell script as the first topic in this workshop. As in the future, you will see that many of the things you will do, for example, running Python script, running Python notebook, copying files, moving things around, will be done in the terminal rather than using a mouse or a keyboard. You'll see that this way is much more efficient. Okay, so for your assignments on Unix shell and shell script, the first assignment is this list of instruction. Create a new directory named foo, change the directory, output hello world, display the content of a text file, make a copy of the file, place that copy in a new directory. These should be all very easy, and we have covered that. And for assignment two, please go ahead and visit these two websites, Unix Workbench and Unix Software Cupboardry. It's both of which are very nice introduction to Unix commands and has a whole list of exercise. So please take screenshot as you finish these actions. And after the live session, we will share a Google Doc, a Google folder where you can upload the results of your assignment. Okay, that's all we want to cover for the first topic. Let's have some time for questions. The questions, this is the time to raise your hand and we'll take them.
Hello, sir.
Hi.
Uh, so my question is about script from a file. So you first granted the permissions to the file, then you typed in the name of the file. Instead of doing those two, commands, you can just use bash and the file name, right? That would be way easier to do.
Okay, very good point. Yeah, yes, you can do that.
Yeah, thank you, sir. That was my
Thank
question.
you. Yeah, thank you for bringing it out. Uh,
Okay, hi. Can you hear me?
yes.
So my question is there a particular program we are going to use in Windows, like WLS, and to do our project, or there is a available online application?
Yes, so the Windows subsystem for Linux should work for almost everything else that we'll cover in this course. So later on, we'll install Python and run quite a number of Python script. Uh, it should be doable on Windows machine if you install Conda, but it'd be much easier if you have Windows subsystem for Linux. So we recommend that you actually go ahead and install it. It shouldn't take you long. I think at most 1 hour you should have it fully installed.
Okay, thank you very much.
Hi. The tutorial that I found for downloading Jupyter Notebook said to do it into a virtual environment, I think was the term it used. Is
Mhm.
that all right for the purposes of this course, or?
Uh, yes, depending on your Windows version,
It's an Apple, actually.
yes, it could work. It could work. So personally, I haven't tried it myself.
Because they said it's like safer as a,
Uh,
operating system.
okay, okay. Yeah, you can definitely do that.
Okay.
You Raj, feel free to go ahead.
Hello.
Yes, we can hear you.
Yeah. So it's a simple question. I want to know that can we run all these Unix commands on the Google Colab notebooks?
Yeah.
Because my PC cannot handle anything right now. I don't know why.
So I haven't tried it on Google Colab. Maybe you want to Google about it. My guess is you should be able to run some of that, but maybe not the entire file system because the Google Colab may not have a full-fledged file system you can play with. I may be wrong there, but you should you know do some research
The
there if
best,
it is okay.
so the best thing right now is WSL, right?
I'm sorry.
Like like the best thing that I can use right now is Windows Subsystem for Linux.
Yes, we recommend that because many other future assignments will be done in Python, and you want to have a good environment for that.
And these classes would be held weekly, right?
Yes, at the same time.
All right. Thank you.
Cosmo Boy.
I wanted to ask, you showed an example for a shell script. So, like, how do we learn how to like write those scripts and all? Is there any
Yes,
resource or like,
yes. So the shell script is nothing more a whole list of shell comment. So we have shown some shell comments and the for loop. So I would say most things you can encounter will be covered by those, but you can also Google for other shell commands you can put in for a whole list, and you can download example shell script out there and see what other people are capable of doing uh, and learn from example. I think that's the best way.
Yep,
so
and just for
like
practice,
if let's say in a
yeah, I was saying this assignment is a really good way to cover most of the commands you'll use on a regular basis. I think it is a
okay,
very comprehensive guide, so you can get all the details from this assignment.
okay,
Okay,
so like
folks.
uh,
Go ahead.
so like when we meet, let's say like, I'm doing a project and when I need something to work on a script, I can Google that and like get those scripts, right? That's what you're saying.
Yes, yes.
Oh, okay, okay. Thank you.
Yeah.